This podcast is proudly brought to you by Paul's Strength Book, an app for everyone. For less than $2 a day, you can have full access to weight training programs, nutrition, recipes, macro calculators, video library, and you can also track all of your metrics including weight, measurements, strength, and performance. Search for Paul's Strength Book in all good app stores now. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Paul's Body Engineering Podcast. And if you're a regular listener, Happy New Year, because this is the first podcast I've recorded in 2024. It is effectively the 2nd of January, already the 2nd. I'm sure this year will go by just as fast, if not faster, than the previous year. But today's podcast, I wanted to get one in early this year because I want to reflect on my recent holiday. Now, the main reason I want to do that is there's a few learnings that I took away from it, and it's certainly something that I believe can be implemented by many people in relation to managing stress, anxiety, avoiding being run down, burnt out, just managing your mental well-being as well as your physical well-being over time. And we often are victims of our own success in some ways because, we work really, really hard to achieve certain goals in life, whether it be financial success or family success or, buying a house and things like that. But we don't take time out for ourselves where we basically don't do a lot. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So firstly, as many of you would be aware, I myself and my beautiful wife went away to Vanuatu over Christmas. Flew in Christmas Day, flew in the 23rd and then flew back out on the 29th. Now, every second year it's a thing that we do. For various reasons, but a lot of people, I've had a few mates comment me and go, "Good, geez, it must be nice to do all this traveling." Well, India several times throughout the year is obviously a work trip, okay? And second to that, Vanuatu, I strategically saved up enough Qantas points to pay for the majority of that holiday. So, for anyone out there who's wanting to take advantage of Qantas points, I certainly recommend it, particularly if you run a small business. But the point of this podcast is to go over what I learned from this holiday. Now, where we stayed in Vanuatu for the majority of the time was very limited in regards to phone reception, Wi-Fi, access to the real world, to be completely fair. And, for me, I'm very much an explorer, very much an adventurer, as my wife will attest, but also get frustrated with because, she's happy to just relax and just be. Whereas more often than not, when we go somewhere new, I want to see everything. I want to get around, I want to explore, I want to experience, I want to see what's going on. Now, while we could achieve that for the majority of the holiday, we were quite remote. So there wasn't that much to do and see every given day. So what we ended up doing was we'd go out and explore in the morning, and by lunchtime, 1 o'clock, we'd be back at our resort, and we would spend literally 5 to 6 hours sitting on a hammock, sitting on a couch, sitting on a chair by the water's edge, and just chilling and reading. And this is the first time I've actually read a book cover to cover since probably school. And I used to be a really big bookworm, but I haven't done it in a long time. And whenever we used to go camping recently, I'd take a book with me and I'd get through, a few chapters before we'd have to turn around and come home because I'm not that quick a reader. And I haven't picked those books back up again. But this time I actually read a book cover to cover and I was fully engrossed and just loved it because I didn't have to be anywhere. There was no timelines, no need to rush, no schedule. There was no noise, no distraction. It was quiet. It was just calming. It was relaxing and I really enjoyed it. And I think it really served me well for the end of this year. And just as an FYI, anyone out there who's in the coaching space or works with people, I highly recommend Wayne Bennett's latest book. Now, he didn't write it. Andrew Webster wrote it, but it's about him and his entire career. And he's considered arguably the greatest sporting coach this country has ever seen, given his success. And his success comes from managing people and communication and things like that. And I learned a lot about that I'm going to implement in my own coaching business. But the point of this podcast, as I mentioned, is about what I learned from this holiday. And that is, it's okay to stop. It's okay to have time out. It's okay to have some downtime where you actually physically and mentally don't do anything in relation to what you normally do in your daily week. Okay, our week to weeks always look the same, right? They always are repetitious because of work, because of kids' school, because of our Monday to Friday grind, and then weekends are generally kids' sport or weekend commitments or housework. It is very, very repetitive, and that's why the years go by so quickly. But what I learned, and look, I must admit I already knew this, but without actually sitting and reflecting, it's something that I probably took for granted, is that it's okay to stop. I purposely didn't take my laptop, so I couldn't do any work, even though I had very little Wi-Fi. And the Wi-Fi I did have didn't allow us to do anything other than maybe text. It was that poor. So, for me to jump on social media and upload a photo to my Instagram stories took ages. So that was kind of a good thing. It got me off social media. It got me not thinking about work. I just thought about the moment and being present and spending time with my wife and reading a book and what's for dinner, And I came back from the holiday really refreshed. We flew back in on the 29th. I was at the gym on the 30th, and my brain was like someone had plugged it in again. It was thinking about all different things in regards to business and, what's next. And I was on full tilt, ready to, tackle 2024 with, new vigor. I was very excited to see what this year brings. Often, and I have experienced this, where I'll go away, and because I'm go, look, experience, I'll come back quite fatigued. And a lot of people say that, the old saying, I need a holiday after my holiday, because when you go on holiday, you tend to go hard for a number of different reasons, whether it's exploring or whether it's partying or whatever, and then you come back just as more fatigued. So by coming back really relaxed and really refreshed, and I think my mental space really needed it as well, is something that I will certainly remember, and I'll certainly implement moving forward. And I think that's what I wanted to sort of get across in this podcast, is that while, money does obviously dictate our holidays and where we go and how we do it, it shouldn't, because you don't have to have a fancy island holiday like we did, and by no means it was fancy, but you can still find ways to get away from your daily grind. Like, we get to the weekends and we're generally pretty exhausted. So I'll hang out at home, Saturday morning, what do you want to do? I couldn't be bothered. And then, the day sort of grinds away, and next thing you know, I'll just do some housework, or I'll mow the lawn, or I'll do the garden, or I'll do a load of washing, or, because you're at home, because it's there. You can't relax at home because it's your home. But if you plan ahead and commit an action, a weekend away, a day trip, a road trip, a long weekend, a week away, obviously it is dependent on holidays and kids and finances and stuff, but all of those things aside, you can still do something. And I think that's the point. Like my wife and I think it was prior to COVID, or it might have been just after COVID, when lockdowns were open up again, that we nearly every weekend, if we didn't have children, we would do a road trip. And we have explored every single nook and cranny of the Sunshine Coast, every small outback town, every small suburb. We've driven on nearly every road because we just wanted to drive and see something new. And it was relaxing because we weren't at home, we weren't thinking about work, we were just being present and enjoying each other's company. And it cost us barely anything other than the petrol and maybe a meal out if we did that. So, you don't have to spend a fortune to get away from your daily grind. But what I've learned from this is that every time you do this, it revitalizes you. You feel refreshed. You feel invigorated. You're not allowing your brain to continually work and be overloaded with too much information due to, 5, 6, 7 days of work plus home life and finances and all these sorts of things. There has to be a circuit breaker, and it has to be often, I feel. Something that just breaks up the routine, breaks up the schedule, breaks up the grind, and gives you an opportunity to do something different that you haven't done before. So whether it's a road trip just around the hinterland or down to Brisbane, Gold Coast, Hervey Bay, you can do these things in a day. We once drove to Byron in a day and came back. That's okay. It's enjoyable because it's somewhere new. If you want to do a weekend away, find an Airbnb. There's so many specials and affordable places that you can go to out there. There's so many free camps. I've got 2 thick books I was looking at last night, in fact, that highlight every single free camp in the country. And there are so many of them. All you need is obviously your camping gear. You pack it up, have it organised, and away you go. Pick a free campsite, bang. other than the travel and maybe some food, it's a pretty affordable holiday or getaway. But it's really important that these things are done, I think. And again, we often say, yeah, let's do it. Let's we need to have a holiday. We need to have a holiday. But saying it and doing it are two different things. Actually actioning something and taking full advantage of that action is another thing entirely. Good tip. I often get a lot of newsletters, emails through from various holiday companies, package companies like Trip a Deal and Luxury Escapes, and Urban List does a lot. And, if there's something on those emails that piques my interest, I know Urban List do a lot of features on like cabins and cottages and Airbnbs on the Sunshine Coast that are really unique, tiny homes, things like that. So I'll often save them and just go, right, I'll keep that in the back of my mind. And when we've got a weekend free coming up that doesn't have any commitments to it, I might book something in, And again, there's another breakaway because we're going somewhere different. We're exploring something new. We're trying something new. I think it's something that more people have to implement. And, it doesn't matter the scale of it, it's still a breakaway. And I think that's the important thing is, a lot of people go, I can't afford a break. I can't afford a weekend away. Accommodation in Brisbane is $300 a night. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. But instead of spending that $300 a night on a fancy accommodation, go camping. Go for a drive for the day. Hire an Airbnb. Sometimes they're not nowhere near as affordable. Units and that can actually be quite affordable if you're looking in the right place. But you don't have to go to the tourist areas as well. You don't have to go to Brisbane. You don't have to go to the Gold Coast. Go to somewhere different. There's always something available, something new to learn. One weekend, my wife and I drove out to Kingaroy. It was about 2.5 hours west of here. But it was a great drive. We went to a lavender farm. We went to this lookout overlooking the city. And I'd never been to Kingaroy before. It's the peanut capital of Australia. But again, it was something different. And because I was away from my computer desk, away from work, I wasn't thinking about it, it was a great little breakaway. It was only a day trip. But 2.5 hours, you start early, head out, spend the day out there, come back. What couldn't be better? So, I think the point of this, without rambling on too much, is that having those breaks from your daily grind, I think, is incredibly important, particularly for your mental welfare. I speak to people often in my job, whether it be face-to-face or online, and a lot of them do struggle from time to time because they have so much on their plate, particularly if you're a parent. And even if you're not, you still have a lot on your plate, right? So breaking the weeks up, and I'm not saying you have to have a holiday or a breakaway every single weekend. That's ridiculous because, often we have to stay at home because we have housework to do or gardening to do or, whatever the case may be. But once every 2 to 3 months is not by any means unrealistic. It's actually very achievable. And each time can be something completely different. You can stay in a cabin at a holiday park. You can rent a unit. You can do a staycay in the city. That often there are, in the lower periods, the lower seasons, there are actually really good deals available. You just got to know where to look. Or just do a road trip for a day. Just spend an hour driving somewhere. Look at a map. I often look at a map and go, I haven't been here. What's that like? And I'll head out there, and it's a cute little country town, one pub, one post office, and one general store. But you know what? It's something different. It's something new. And I think that's what I learned the most from this holiday. And I want to implement more book reading. I want to implement more opportunity to get off social media because I think it's quite toxic at times and can be very addictive, as we know. And going places without my laptop is a big deal as well. So I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot from it. And I'm going to continue to try and implement that change moving forward. And I know it'll be hard because, again, it's routine-based, right? It's structure-based, it's discipline-based. If I don't do it often enough, I'll fall back into my old habits. But by putting it out there to the public forum, and obviously my wife will listen to this as well, she will keep me honest in regards to these things. I think it's going to be really, really good for my mental well-being, my mental strength, my mental resilience moving forward. So I think I'll wind it up there, but that's what I learned from this holiday. And I urge anyone who listens to this to not only think about their next holiday, but plan it, book it. There's often, like on booking.com as another example, you can book something, you don't have to pay for it until like a week before. So book it, then you're committed, and all of a sudden you'll start saving. And we often speak about, not having money or personal training or online coaches are quite expensive, yet we're prepared to drop a couple of $100 on a dinner out or, a big night out. How much did you spend on New Year's Eve? accommodation, Netflix and Stan and having all these things available. Well, you can easily transfer some of those costs to a holiday. What's more important, your mental well-being or a dopamine hit? I'll leave that with you, I think. I think that's a good way to end. So thank you once again. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you've started the year off really, really strong. Get those disciplines in effect. It's actually raining quite heavily at the moment, but I got up early this morning. I went straight to the gym, and I'm glad I did, because as the rain sets in, obviously motivation will probably decline, but my discipline and my need to keep that routine in place, particularly in a new year, is what gets me across the line more times than not. So thank you once again for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please screenshot and share it across your stories. Tag myself at Paul's Body Engineering. I plan to have plenty more podcasts coming up in the new year, including some amazing guests as well. But for now, if you're interested in any of my coaching services, please jump on paulsbodyengineering.com or jump on my Instagram and have a look at the links in my bio. Alternatively, this podcast is obviously sponsored by Paul's Strength Book. The link is in the show notes as well, and at the moment I'm currently offering 7 days free on that, and there's no commitment beyond that too. You can do 7 days and then opt out if you wish, which is a pretty good deal for the new year. So if you're keen to get your training off to a really good start, jump on and have a look. But for now, as I say to every client every single day, have a great day.